Hello, and welcome to Office Hours, where I answer your questions about weight and weight medicine. I'm Dr. Meghan. I'm a board-certified physician in internal medicine, lifestyle medicine, and obesity medicine. And this is really important because I actually prescribe these medications all the time. I actually talk to patients about their weight all the time. I've helped hundreds of patients lose weight, and I'm here to help you too. So if you're confused about your weight, if you have questions about weight medicines, and if you want medically based, fact-based answers to your weight questions, you are in the right place. Welcome. As a caveat, before we get started, I can't answer personal medical questions because I'm not your personal doctor. So if your question does lean a little personal, I'm going to change it so it's more broadly educationally relevant. So let's go. Okay, first question. Do GLP-1s become less effective over time? Do you build up tolerance and they no longer work eventually? Great question. This actually comes up a lot for people. I think people are used to, it's too good to be true, right? This medication can't possibly work and continue working, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that from the evidence that we have and from also what I see clinically, they do continue to work, which is great news. So there is evidence that over longer periods of time, people maintain their weight loss or even lose a bit more. And I'll put the link to this study below, but one of the best studies we have is the SURMOUNT-4 trial, which took people who were on tirzepatide. The whole study was about 80 weeks or so, and watched them about 36 weeks in. They switched them, but they switched some of them to a placebo, and some of them they kept on the medication, but nobody knew what they were on. It was a blinded study. And what we can see from that study is not just that the people who were who got switched to placebo actually gained quite a bit of weight back, but the people who stayed on the medication for that extended period of time, they actually lost on average about 5% more weight. So the total body weight on average for the people who stayed on tirzepatide for about 80 weeks was 25% weight loss. So even better than we originally expect for tirzepatide. So that's good, evidence-based sign that we can expect these medications to continue working for the long haul. Now, also, I will say clinically, I've been treating people with these medications for years and years and years. And if people were developing a tolerance to this medication, or the weight was somehow not working and gradually coming back on, I would be absolutely flooded with calls. When this happens for people, they are panicked. I would be flooded. These are not calls that I'm getting. On the rare occasion that somebody does call my office and say, hey, listen, I think I'm gaining weight. Always, 100% of the time, it has been something else has changed. It's very easy. It's a very easy target to blame weight regain on the medication somehow not working. I'm not sure what happened. It must be that this just stopped working, right? It's everybody's worst nightmare. And it's very easy to pin things on. But whenever this has come up in my practice, whenever I get into the data and we get into the nitty-gritty of what's actually going on in somebody's life, day to day, actually specifically what they're doing, it's always an external factor that has caused the weight gain. So either somebody stopped going to the gym, okay? Or they had a family emergency, and so they've been either traveling a lot, or they have been in and out of hospitals visiting family members, or things got just really chaotic at home. They're eating a lot of convenience food, takeout. Whenever I have seen this happen, it's always been something else has changed significantly. So the evidence suggests, and my clinical experience also suggests, that these medications continue to work. And also, after I've been following people for years and years now, it is very heartening to see that these medications really do keep them at this new normal for them. So for everybody out there, the take-home message for this is a two-parter. Number one is these medications should continue to work. So you don't have to do fancy things like restart them or like go down a dose and then go back. Like, you can keep it really simple and it's going to keep working. You do not have to tinker around with things or like always be trying to change something with the medication. Once I have people on a maintenance dose, which is usually the highest dose they can tolerate, I just keep them there. And that's where their weight will be at its new normal. Now, the second part of, so number one, you don't have to get fancy. Number two is if I have a patient that does start to gain weight, it is very important, one, not to spiral, okay? Don't panic. Number two, I always really want to know what's going on. Like, how are their habits different? Have they changed how they're eating? Have they changed when they're eating? Have they changed what they're eating? Have they moved? Have they changed jobs? Are they, did something happen with a family member? Like, what else is going on that is another reason why there might be some weight gain? Is there a medication that was started? Like, what else? Turn over all the stones. What else is going on for this person in their life? What could be the other reasons? Because it's extremely easy to just say, oh, medication must not be working. But that's not really, it's easy to say, but it's not usually true. So for anybody, now, this isn't to say that the medication always works for everybody. It doesn't always work for everybody. In rare cases, it won't work for somebody. But if it is working for somebody and they have lost a lot of weight and then the weight starts to come back on, chances are, from my perspective, there's usually something else that's going on and it's not the medication. If they're getting the FDA version, the access has been okay, they've been able to get it, everything on the prescription side is good, it's usually something else that's going on. So what a great question. Thank you so much for that. Okay, next question. I was prescribed Contrave, but I also have AFib. Can I take the meds with this issue? Haven't had an episode in about a year. Okay, so I can't answer personal medical advice, but I will say that this is something that comes up for people from time to time, and especially people who are in their 60s, 70s, even 80s. It's not unusual that they may have some heart issues going on. And a lot of the times for me, they're also at the age where they're maybe in the Medicare age group and their insurance isn't covering any weight loss medication. And for some people, it's not financially feasible to be paying out of pocket for tirzepatide or semaglutide. So that really means I have to turn the focus to oral medications in addition to all the lifestyle changes. But oral medications are really what we're left with in terms of options. And for a lot of patients, especially patients in the Medicare age group, the oral medications are not going to be a great fit because there are underlying heart issues. So if I have a patient and they can only take oral medications for weight loss, and they have some sort of heart arrhythmia, whether it's AFib, a flutter, a bradycardia, like there's many different types. But if they have a heart issue, I am not going to start them on a stimulant medication such as phentermine or Contrave because that can really make those issues worse. I will usually, depending on what's going on for somebody, if I think, well, there might be a chance, I will talk to the patient and because also if somebody has a heart arrhythmia, the chances are very, very good that they also have a cardiologist. And so I will say to the patient, you need to chat with your cardiologist about this. And if cardiology, given whatever's going on with that patient, if cardiology feels like this is not, phentermine, Contrave, these are not going to pose a risk to their heart, it's not going to interfere with what's going on, then we have a discussion further about the risks and the benefits, and maybe we do decide to start something for them. For me, for anything like AFib, A-flutter, any sort of irregular, fast-beating heart rhythm, I don't feel comfortable usually prescribing a stimulant medication. I think there's just too much risk. And, of course, in medicine, the first goal is to do no harm. So my primary goal is to not make things worse with this medication. And so for me, it's usually a pretty hard stop with AFib. It doesn't mean there aren't other oral medications that I would consider, such as metformin. That's usually not going to be an issue for somebody's heart. But usually for AFib, aflutter, any sort of tachyarrhythmia, stimulant medications are in general, I do not feel like they're a good fit. But as always, people can discuss with their cardiologist further. And what a great question. Next question. Does the return of food noise factor into whether or not to titrate up to the next dose? This was in response to the video I made about, is your GLP-1 dose potentially too low? And this is a great question. Okay. So, yeah, such a good question. Okay. Yes and no. So, the return of food noise. So a lot of people probably have noticed that that those first couple shots of the GLP-1 medication, you're like, wow, no appetite. I don't want any food. I don't want anything sweet. I don't want soda. I want nothing but vegetables, right? A lot of people notice that their preferences really change, their appetite really changes. But as somebody gets more and more used to the medication, that gradually kind of that really strong suppressive effect wears off a little bit, which is good because I want people to have an appetite. I do want people to have food preferences. I don't want them to be so suppressed. But a lot of times that does happen to people in the beginning. And so they may also notice that some of that food noise that like, oh, I'm thinking about chocolate a little bit more. I'm thinking about, if I see like a baked good, I have more of an urge for it than I did when I first started the injections. They may find that starts to come back a little bit. Or they may also notice that towards the end of the week before they do their shot again, like day 6 or so, that's coming back a little bit. Sometimes, if somebody is still titrating up on their medication and they're noticing that that's happening a lot and everything else is going well in terms of their dosing and it's an appropriate time clinically, like they've had the 4 doses, they're not having side effects, that might be one of the pieces of data that's helpful for me to say, okay, it sounds like you're ready. It sounds like you're ready to go up to the next dose. It can be a helpful indicator. But I will also say that, and this is just a general PSA for people, food noise isn't necessarily like gone forever, okay? It's not like you can just forget about it and pretend you'll never see it again, okay? So for some people, yes. Some people, it never comes back. But for some people, it does. And it's usually a milder version. But I just don't want people to be alarmed that they have a little, because there's such a contrast between when they first started and then, at month 3, month 6, kind of where they are with that. Because there's such a contrast, I just don't want people to be alarmed if they notice it coming back because it doesn't necessarily correlate with weight gain. But it's just, for me, it's a sign that their body's adjusting to it. And so for somebody who's on their maintenance dose, let's say I have a patient and they've lost 20% of their total body weight, they've noticed they have a little bit more food noise. For me, it doesn't necessarily mean that anything has to happen other than, okay, well, let's also take a look at what you're eating because there are foods that are going to increase food noise. And so the more you can lessen that, the more you can, cut out processed foods, be very intentional if you do have foods that are high in salt or high in sugar or processed, like you want to be very careful with those kinds of foods because they are going to likely increase food noise. But so I always want people to take a look at that. But it's not unusual that when people are on the medication for a long time, they may notice that comes back a little bit. And I just don't want people to think it's a cause for an alarm. I think it is important for people to just realize that that may happen, and so they can't totally absolve themselves of any responsibility in terms of taking care of that, like doing what they can do on their end to make sure that they're doing everything to prevent excess food noise from happening. And that is usually very diet related. So are they getting enough protein? Are they eating a lot of fruits and vegetables? What's the processed food situation? What's the soda situation? Like, all those things are really going to help. So yes, in the short term, it might definitely factor into consideration on advancing the dose, but just be aware that long term, like anybody who's not on the medication, they may have some food noise that returns. So I just don't want people to panic about that. And it doesn't mean that they have to change anything necessarily, or that their weight is going to drastically increase. So great question. Next question. Okay, this is more of a statement, but I thought it was a really a good one to address because, okay, so this viewer wrote in, this was about, whether you're on medications forever. There is no reason you couldn't stop taking appetite suppressant and keep the weight off unless you literally have 0% self-control, in which case psychiatry would be the next step. And I think, a lot of people out in the world have this idea of, you can go on this medication and then stop, and you should be able to just do the rest of the work on your own. But I think it's not really a very nuanced picture of how the medications work. And it kind of puts a lot of blame on people who have been dealing with a lot of shame and blame about their weight for a very long time. So I think when people have this idea that you can be on the medication and then you should be able to go off and just stay where you are, that really ignores how the medications work, because this is not like a jump start. None of these medications are a jump start. So if we are just looking at, let's say, the GLP-1 medication, it works in a couple different ways. And one of the ways that it makes it so effective, we think, is it really helps change the balance between fat storage and fat burning in the brain, right? In the hypothalamus. So your hypothalamus is a very important part of your brain, controls a lot of the automatic settings for your body. And that includes the balance of energy storage and energy burning, fat burning and fat storage. So one of the ways that makes the GLP-1 medication so powerful is that they are really working on that system as well, not just the stomach and not just the cravings, but actually how our brain has calibrated the balance of fat. And so if you take that away, it just stops working. And we have seen clinically and through research that weight tends to come back on. And then if we're looking at something like phentermine, which is a more maybe traditional appetite suppressant, which also works in the hypothalamus, but more in a slightly different way. If that suppressant goes away, the more exaggerated appetite is going to come right back. So I think this comment is just a good opportunity for just another PSA of these medications. They really are forever. People have different reasons as to why they have overweight or obesity. And these medications are just a really good tool to help fight that. And so I think that comment is just a good reminder that there are many, many different ways that people have overweight or obesity, and that we have these tools that can really make a significant difference now. But truly, if people stop taking them, they do stop working. And so while it can be helpful for people, if they lose access or they have to go off of them for a short period of time to, do their best to do all the other things that help with weight in terms of lifestyle, that for a lot of people, that is not going to be the full story in terms of how to get their BMI to a healthy level. So isn't it great that we are living in this time, that we have these tools, even though there are so many access issues, price issues, supply issues, but isn't it at least, I mean, think of 10 years ago, right? That was very, very different. Aren't we at least so lucky that we have what we have now? Not that we don't want to keep making it better, but just think of the world of difference that we are in compared to, 10 years ago. Really, really amazing, life-changing for people. So many lives have been saved. So many lives have been changed. Completely different, completely new quality of life for so many people. Thank you so much for watching. If you have questions afterwards, please leave them on this video or another video and I will add them to the list. For people who are on a GLP-1 and they still have a chaotic relationship with food, or they are having issues getting themselves to the gym, or they are not sure what to eat, how to eat, when to eat. If you want to just fix that, you should schedule a consult call with me. I will tell you all about how I help people with the non-medical aspects of weight loss with coaching. That's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching and please be well.